Hello and welcome to eMultiSkills video tutorial. In this video tutorial, we will learn what is Postgre tablespace. So this is an introduction to the Postgre tablespace. So if we say in the layman language, we'll say tablespace is a space or a storage location where all the tables or objects occupying the storage are stored. So, what is stable space? So, it is a location on the disk, whether we are talking about the file system on the Linux or drive on Windows system. So, this is the location where Postgre stores data files, and how Postgre is letting the instance know where it has to store the file, that is referred in the table space. So what table space actually does, it map a logical name to a physical location on the disk. So in the demo, we will see the logical name and where does it corresponds to. So you would already be knowing that there is something called as $PG data, which denotes to the data directory location in Postgre, where by default all the data files or objects occupying the storage are stored. So when we talk about the table spaces are nothing. They are just a logical name which corresponds to a physical location on the disk. Let's say you have installed your Postgre instance on the on database in Windows system. Then in your C drive at a particular location, you will have the data files located. So by default, there are two kinds of table spaces mentioned in Postgre. One is known as the PG default, which stores all the user's data will be stored over there, and PG underscore global, where all the global data is stored. So when an instance is created, you have two table spaces. One is PG default and another is PG global. Default means the one where user data is stored, and global means where all the global data is stored. So it's good to ask, what is the advantage of using table spaces? Let's say I wanted to create a new table space. So does it mean something? So by default in Linux, the data files are located in slash var lib postgre. Let's say the version is 12 and slash data at this particular location. But the storage in slash var, which is the default location data directory, is not unlimited. And if you wanted to create a new file system, if you are unable to create extend this storage, and if you wanted to use a new file system, and in that case you have to create a new table space, and you have to point that particular location to the new file system or drive. Or there may be a possibility that you have high performing storage and you create a new table space and you put your high performing objects which requires the high performance in that table space, and it is good for the performance of PostgreSQL instance. So what is the default storage in PostgreSQL? So when you install your Postgre, let's say on RHEL or Windows. So in Windows, everything will be done automatically by the run installer. But in Linux system, when you install the binary, then it asks you to initialize the database. So you initialize the database using pg underscore ctl hyphen d, the data directory location if it is non-default, and initdb. So you start the instance following the initialization. And what happens during this course of action, there is a location which is created which is called $PG data, wherein all the data or data files related to PostgreSQL is stored. So by default, there are two table spaces which are created when you install a new instance. One is pg underscore global, which refers to the global system catalog uh, s- uh, catalog files, or what do you say, the the shared system catalogs, or there is something called as pg underscore default where your user data is created. So we are more interested in pg underscore default because your user data will be stored over here. And how do we create a new table space? For creating a new table space, you will have to log in into Postgre command prompt and just say create table space name, location, and this is the physical location on your Linux system or your Windows system. And on the Postgre prompt, if you say /db plus, so this will show you all the table spaces available. So how do we create the object in a new table space? So you simply say, let's create a new database, create database db1. And if you don't want to mention the default table space, and if you mention a new table space which you have created, you simply say create database name, which is more than sufficient. And if you wanted to have these database created in a new table space, you just say table space and table space name. So you switch to the new database, and then any table which you create inside that database will be automatically created in the new table space. That means it will go to the new file system or the location which you have mentioned. Otherwise, what you can do when you create the tables using create table command, you can mention the table space name. So either you say table space, new table space, or table space, the existing table space, which is pg underscore default. So it works this way. So now we'll see the demo, how it works. So we will initialize instance, and once the initialization is done, we will check what is pg data, which we have already discussed in the previous tutorial. And then we will see what is Postgre table space, what is the default table space, and then we will see the location of the default table space. We will create a new table space, the objects in the new table space, then we will move objects from one table space to another, and then we will see on the instance label how to change the default table space. So this is what we are going to do on Postgre demo. So this is the list of steps which we are going to perform. And let me close the PowerPoint presentation. And this is my Linux box. I'm already logged in as MOBA Xterm tool. So I'll just say sudo su hyphen Postgre. Sorry. Let's clear the screen. And what we are going to do is we either you create a new instance or you initialize the existing one. So we are going to initialize the existing one. We will say pgctl hyphen d data init db. So let's do this. So okay, let me do one thing. Let me stop the instance, or let's create a new instance. I'll just say mkdir hyphen p and create this location. And then let's instantiate it. pgctl-d, the directory location, so that a new instance is created in a particular data directory, and initdb. Oops. It is also not empty. Let's create another one. Let's say 2. create this directory. Done. Then start do the initialization. This is also existing, so let me see what all I have done. Instance 1, instance 2 is also available. Let's create instance 3. mkdir and then initialize the database. You can see that fixing permission on existing directory. This is data directory. So this is how you create a new instance. So let's initiate or start this particular instance. This is starting. This is how do you start the instance. So what I will do is I'm not going to use this. This is just how do you create a new instance. I'm going to the existing one, sudo systemctl status postgresql -12, and you can see there is something called as pg data for the default instance. So I'll go to cd dollar pg data. If I say ls-lrt, you can see n number of files are over here. And then what I'm going to do is inside, if you see the content of the files or the folders or the subdirectories under this, you will be able to see these many number of files in pg data, right? So by default, when you create the objects, where does it go? It goes into PG data. So this will go in this particular location. So over a period of time, this particular location will keep on occupying more and more storage as the user data is inserted, created, or it is done. So how it happens? So it happens due to the what do you say, the table spaces. So let me log into um, to the browser using the uh, pgadmin4 tool. This is the IP address of my server 192.168.1.61. So just click it and you will be able to see something called as table spaces. So by default, these are the two table spaces which are created, pg underscore default. So you can see that I have a database DVD rental. So DVD rental will find the storage in pg underscore default, whether it is sequences, indexes, or there will be the tables also. So these are the tables. So you can see that these are existing in pg underscore default, and when you see the pg underscore global table space, you will see the catalog related tables or the indexes. And table space in actual uh, uh, corresponds to what you say as the pg data location. So PG data, PG underscore global table space is used for shared system catalogs, and PG underscore default is for default table space. So this is how it works. Let's create a new table space. I'll say tbs2 mkd. The first step which we have to do is we have to create a directory location or folder location in Windows. So mkdir-p, I have created that. Then what we have to do, we'll have to log in as psql, and then we have to fire the command. So by default, when you say /db plus, this shows you all the table spaces which are existing as of now. So I already have two more table spaces which I created in another demo. So these are the two table spaces which are created by default. And if the location is not mentioned, that means it is corresponding to PG data, which is the default data directory location. If you have changed the data directory location, it must show it over here. So the next step is we have to create a new table space. So the command is create table space name, and the physical location on the file system. So you can see there is a relationship between the location and the table space name. Table space created, just say slash db plus, and this will show you the new table space which we have created. So this is the new table space tbs2, and this is corresponding to this physical location. So what we will do next is there is something called as pg underscore table space location. uh, pwd, inside cd data. This is your default data directory, and there is something called as pg underscore table space. If you go inside that and say ls hyphen ltr, this will show you a symbolic link. In our case, this is the object id, oid, unique object id for the new table space. The Whenever you create a new object in a new table space, it goes to postgre slash data slash tbs2. So all the information is still there in pg data and in pg underscore table space. So it has created the link automatically. So now let's create the object. So we'll say create, we have already created the table space, uh, and now let's create a database. Create database db2, table space tbs2, which is already we have it. Oops, I entered the wrong password. All right, just say create database name and table space name. So that means this particular database will be created in new table space. So any object which is created inside this one will be automatically uh, created in new table space. So that's obvious. So let's switch to the new database, which is db2, and now let's create the table. When we say create table tab 1, so it is going to create that particular table in your new table space. Let's say create table tab 2, and if you mention the table space name, then also it is going to create in the new table space. Or if you wanted to mention the table space name, it will. So there is nothing great in this. You just mention where you wanted to create it. Let's say I wanted to create a new table space in default new table in default table space, so I can do that. So the problematic part is when you have to mention the table space name. So how can we do that? Can we move the objects from one table space to another? We can do that. Or can we alter the uh, change the table space from one to another? We can do all of that. So if I just say alter table all in table space, and we set it to default table space, it is possible. We can do that. But whenever you do all this operation, there will be a lock on the table and nobody will be able to use that. What if I wanted to utilize the new table space? So any new user who comes in wanted to use the new table space. So let's do a demo for that. So let's create a new location, mkdir-p postgre slash data new table space 2, and we'll say the table space name is tbs2, and this is the location, and we are going to create a table in new table space. So this is I mean, this is the time-taking process, right? We create a folder. This is an administrator part, so that has to be done without any. I mean, you cannot skip this step. The second is when you create, you have to create the location. You have to create the table space with the new location. And if the application team wanted to create the table inside the new table space, they have to mention the table space name. So create table, table name, table space. But this is problematic. Let's let's create a new table because this table already exists. Oh, this is also existing. So it is create table, table name, table space, new table space name. Yes. So this is done. But it is always very problematic when you have to mention this. So can we do something so that the default table space has changed? So we can say set default table space to uh, the new table space name. So we can set this. Let's just say show default table space. So there is one default table space. And let's change the default table space to the one which we have just created. You can see the default table space is changed from pg underscore default to so any user now who is going to create the data, uh, either table indexes or anything, so it is going to find the storage in new location, which is this location and which is corresponding to this particular table space. Since we have already mentioned it that default table space is this, so any object which is created will be created in this particular table space. So if I simply say uh, create table foo3, then it is going to create the table into new table space. And if you wanted to cross verify, what you can do is just refresh it. You will be able to see the new table space and the objects will be here. So still it is showing fetching dependent information from the server. So this is the foo 2 and the 3 which we have created. So this time we have created foo 3. So by default it has gone to the new table space. So is there a way we can so the problem will be when you have to take the backup. So the command is already mentioned pg underscore base backup, which we have already seen in previous tutorial. You just mentioned the format, and you have to mention the location of your new table space which you have, the additional table space which you have to create. So you have to just make a note of that. And finally, why is table space used for? So table space just used so when your database is growing, so you wanted to go to a new location, so you mention it using the new table space. Or it may be possible that you have a high IOPS or SSD disk which you wanted to use for your objects, so you create a new table space and move your all objects over there. So just a recap what we have done. We initialized an instance, and then we saw what is PG data. PG data is nothing but all the data in your instance goes to this particular location, which corresponds to the default table space. Default table space has two components. So by default, when an instance is created, you have uh, two table spaces, pg underscore default, pg underscore global. Pg underscore default is a table space wherein user data is stored, and pg underscore global where global data is stored, which is related to the instance. And then we have seen what is the default table space location. Default table space location is pg data, and then we created a new table space. So you create a new physical location using mkdir, then you create the table space, then you mention the location so it will be linked. Then you say slash db plus, so this will show you the all the table spaces. And when you go to cd2 data and pg underscore table space, this will show you the symbolic link. That means all the information is still in pg data, pg underscore table space, and new location will be mentioned over there. And that is a kind of symbolic link. So you can see we created this particular TBS2. This is the unique object ID, and this is the new location, and it is available in uh, PG data inside PG underscore table space directory. Then we created a new table space, and you can create the table space table ending with the table space name. Either it is pg underscore default or the new table spaces, or if you wanted to set the table space parameter at the instance level, you just say set default table space and table space name, so that the new objects which are created, they will be created inside the new table space. And how do we back up the additional table spaces? You can use pg underscore base backup. You provide the table space mapping, and that is it. And finally, why is table space used for? Uh, Table space is actually used when your database is growing and you wanted to go to a new location, new physical location on the server. And so you bind the logical name with the physical name. The logical name is your table space, and physical name is the location on the server. And there may be a scenario also wherein you wanted to keep the frequently accessed indexes or the tables into that particular high performing disk, and you create a new table space and you move all the objects over there. So this is all about the table spaces in general. So I think this is more than enough. I hope you have learned a lot about table spaces in Postgre, and see you in another video. And thanks for watching.